Most people treat emotions like wild animals. They think if they can just train them, control them, keep them on a leash, everything will be fine. But that's not control. That's just tension waiting to snap. Miyamoto Musashi didn't control his emotions. He didn't suppress them either. He did something harder. He stopped interfering with them. Musashi was a swordsman. By the time he was 29, he'd killed more than 60 men in duels. He didn't survive that many fights by being brave or motivated or centered. He survived because he understood something most people never figure out. Your emotions don't need to be controlled. They need to stop mattering. That sounds cold. It's not. It's just accurate. When you're standing across from someone who wants to kill you, fear shows up, anger shows up, the urge to prove something, to defend yourself, to win. It all shows up, and if you react to any of it, you're already losing. Because reaction is a delay. It takes time, and time is what gets you cut. Musashi wrote about this in a text called The Book of Five Rings. He didn't write it as philosophy. He wrote it as instruction, how to fight, how to win, how not to die, but buried in the technical details is something bigger, a way of existing that doesn't depend on what you feel. He called one version of this mushin. It means no mind, not empty in the sense of stupid or numb, empty in the sense of unoccupied. When your mind isn't full of reactions, it can move. When it's cluttered with fear or anger or the need to be right, it's stuck. You see this all the time. Someone insults you, and before you even think you're responding, someone cuts you off in traffic and your whole body tightens. You didn't decide to feel that way, it just happened, and then you're stuck managing it, calming yourself down, talking yourself out of it. That's not freedom. That's cleanup. Musashi didn't do cleanup. He didn't let the clutter in to begin with. But here's the part people misunderstand. He wasn't detached. He wasn't numb. He wasn't pretending feelings didn't exist. He just didn't let them run the situation. There's a difference between feeling anger and being angry. One is a sensation. The other is a state. Musashi stayed in the first. Most people slip into the second without noticing. This isn't about being calm. Calm is still a reaction. You try to be calm because you're afraid of not being calm. Musashi wasn't trying. He was still. That's different. He also wrote about something called fudoshin, immovable mind. Not immovable like a rock that refuses to budge. Immovable like water that doesn't resist but also doesn't get displaced. You can throw a stone into water and the water doesn't fight it. It doesn't hold on to it either. The stone sinks. The water returns. That's what Musashi did with emotions. He didn't fight them. He didn't cling to them. He let them pass through without letting them pull him off course. Most people do the opposite. They either shove feelings down, which just builds pressure, or they let feelings take over, which means they're no longer making decisions. Their emotions are, both options are a loss. Musashi didn't lose because he didn't play that game. He didn't treat emotions like something that needed to be managed. He treated them like weather. You don't control weather. You don't ignore it either. You just don't let it decide where you're going. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because what Musashi is describing isn't a technique you practice for 10 minutes a day. It's a way of structuring your entire existence, and it requires giving up something most people aren't willing to give up. The idea that your feelings mean something about who you are. You feel afraid. You think that says something about your courage. You feel angry. You think that says something about your boundaries. You feel hurt. You think that says something about your worth. Musashi would say none of that is true. Those feelings are just noise. They don't mean anything unless you decide they do. That's the hard part. Not controlling the feeling, but stopping the story you tell about the feeling. Musashi lived alone for most of his life. He wandered, he fought, he painted, he wrote. He didn't build a school or gather students until late. He wasn't interested in being remembered as a teacher. He was interested in being correct. And being correct, for him, meant being undisturbed by things that didn't matter. He didn't think emotions mattered, not in the way most people think. He didn't hate them. He didn't fear them. He just didn't give them authority. That's what makes his approach so alien. We're taught that emotions are information, that they're signals, that if we feel something strongly, we should listen. Musashi would say that's exactly the problem. You're listening to the wrong thing. In a fight, if you listen to fear, you hesitate. If you listen to anger, you overcommit. If you listen to pride, you take risks you shouldn't. The only thing worth listening to is the situation itself, what's in front of you, what's actually happening, not what you feel about it. And here's what makes that so difficult. Most people use emotions as proof that they're alive, that they're human, that they matter. So the idea of not listening to them feels like a kind of death, like you'd become a machine, cold, disconnected. But Musashi wasn't cold. He was precise. And precision requires clarity. You can't be clear if you're tangled up in what you feel. He also didn't avoid emotion. He didn't live in a cave or meditate for hours trying to transcend his humanity. He just stopped treating emotions like they were him. They were events, things that happened, not things he was. You can test this right now. Notice something you're feeling. It doesn't matter what. Just notice it. Now ask yourself, is that feeling you, or is it something you're experiencing? If it's something you're experiencing, then it's not in charge. You are. That's what Musashi understood. The mind that observes the emotion is not the emotion. And if you can stay in the part that observes, you don't get swept away. This is not a comfort. It's not supposed to make you feel better. It's supposed to make you functional. Musashi didn't care about happiness. He cared about not dying, and then later about not being controlled by anything that didn't deserve control. He spent his last years writing and painting in a cave, not because he was hiding, because he was done. He'd tested his method in the most extreme circumstances possible, and it worked, so he had nothing left to prove. He just existed, undisturbed. That's the end point. Not peace, not bliss, just the absence of interference. You stop fighting with yourself. You stop needing to be a certain way. You stop performing emotions to prove you're human. You just move. And whatever comes up while you're moving, you let it come. And then you let it go. Most people never get there, because getting there means giving up the idea that your emotions are special, that they mean something, that they're worth defending or explaining or managing. Musashi gave all that up, not because he was enlightened, because it was in the way. And that's the real lesson, not how to master your emotions, but how to stop letting them matter more than what you're actually doing. Musashi died alone. He didn't leave behind a dynasty. He left behind a method, and the method is simple. Don't react, don't suppress, just don't interfere. The world will give you 1,000 reasons to feel something. Fear, anger, pride, shame, all of it will show up. Musashi's answer was always the same. Let it show up, then keep moving. That's it. That's the whole thing.